Hello, my name is Garrett Still, and I'll be talking to you about video game progression over time and a little bit about how it has impacted us today. Okay, depending on your first definition of video games, the first one started in 1952 with the cathode ray tube amusement system, which was pretty much a missile simulator where you could bomb like buildings. It was originally made off of a U.S. Navy console, and it was just repurposed, and they showed it at a fair. And all it was just shooting missiles over buildings, and that could be considered the first video game, even though it was made for military purposes. The next one could be called NIM, which is pretty much NIM is like a really old board, or not a board game, but it's a game that's been played for a couple centuries. They just made a computer that could simulate playing it with you a couple times. It wasn't very intelligent. And OXO, tic-tac-toe, and they had the Strategies Drops program, which is just checkers. It's a fancy way of saying checkers. And all of these were made in the early 50s, and they were made with one singular purpose, and that was to play the video game. So these could. Oh, here are some pictures. That's the NIM game. This is the XOXO. They had to build a computer this big just to play tic-tac-toe on, because that's the technology that existed. And this is a little bit from a more modern version of the cathode ray amusement system. Okay, why is this important? These could be considered the first video game consoles because they were invented just for the purpose of playing the video game. They had no other purpose, which is very similar to what we have today with like the Xbox and the PlayStation and all that other stuff. And these eventually came to inspire the creation of the personal computer, like a home computer that you own today. All these parts were put together and repurposed and reprogrammed, and eventually dropped down to the size that you guys use in your homes today. Space War was actually the first game made for computers that wasn't made just for like playing the game, and it was actually used for a long time to test the computers. Like as soon as they came off the assembly line, they'd play the game on it because the game used every single asset of the computer, the RAM, the hard drive. They used it for everything. So pretty much it was some guy's job to just play video games all day to test out new computers coming out of the assembly line. That's the best job ever. It was actually also the first computer arcade game. It did not do very well. They sold 1,000 copies, 1,000 arcade machines. They put them all around the country. They did terrible because the game was kind of complex, and when you're drunk at the bar, you really don't really have that much fun playing it. All other arcade machines technology that were based off of this original game, which eventually led to the creation of Pong, which some of you might know is kind of like tennis. And it's the first one to become commercially successful, and this one sold a lot more copies than that, over 10,000 arcade machines, and it was just really popular. It led to the commercial success of video games. And here's some Pac-Man. Okay, this one's really interesting. Okay, this game is called Breakout. It was a second arcade game ever made. It was made by Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. Yes. And it was commissioned by Atari. They asked Steve Jobs to do it because they wanted to make the computer chipset less than 150 chips in it. And and it previously had used over 200. So they asked Steve Jobs, and Steve Jobs got his friend to do it, the other Steve, to do it because Steve didn't really know how to do it. He kind of ripped them off too, but that's another story. So pretty much, this new guy got it down to 144 chips, which was way below what they wanted. But the way he did it was so complicated and so ridiculous that they couldn't mass manufacture it. So they kind of But eventually, Steve got the idea, and he reused it to make the Apple computers that you know today. So all the Apple computers that you use today were inspired by this game, Breakout. And we have some other games that began to service in the 80s, like Pac-Man and Rogue, this one's really fun. We got, and then platform games were invented. We got Space Panic, Pitfall, Donkey Kong, Mario, the Metroid series. You guys probably have all heard of those. And eventually it became eventually games had all this central theme, but eventually it became more about content rather than the game's graphics, which leads into the next generation, Generation 3.
we get into around the mid to late 80s to early 90s, we saw the game systems that we know today start to develop. Nintendo brought out their Famicom in Japan as a Nintendo Entertainment System in the US, and the Super Nintendo. We had the Sega Genesis, and what we really saw was compelling themes being made for the games, actual stories and characters. Before that, we had things like Pong, where your character is a tennis racket, or Pac-Man, where you're this little yellow dude who's being chased by ghosts for no real clear reason. And then we got to the Nintendo, where they had games like The Legend of Zelda, where you're Link, the hero of time, on a quest to save the Princess Zelda from the Dark Lord Ganon, and now we have a character with a motivation, we have a story. And what this did is it meant that, first of all, you could tell someone about this game and they could say, that sounds cool, I want to play that. Whereas with previous games like Pong, you couldn't really understand why it's fun without actually playing the game or seeing someone play it. And what it also did is gave us memorable characters, which allowed for video game franchises to begin with sequels and spin-offs. And many of the most popular video game franchises today started in this era with the Nintendo and the Sega Genesis and the Game Boy and stuff like that. You know, Mario, The Legend of Zelda, Sonic the Hedgehog, and which is just one of the many huge revolutionary things that happened to the video game industry as it developed in this time into what we know it as today. And around this time, another huge breakthrough was the toy company Mattel came out with a system called the Microvision, which was amazing. It was the first commercially available handheld system where you could change between different games. This hadn't been done before, and this was huge in theory, but it never took off. Nobody bought it. So handheld gaming wasn't even really a thing until Nintendo came out with the Game Boy. The Game Boy was huge. It was amazingly, it sold a ton of copies. It had some great new games like Kirby that's still huge today, familiar faces like Mario, best-selling RPG of all time was on there. And this was just another huge thing that changed the face of gaming as we know it, and you can still see today that came out in this era. Sega, a little while, brought out their Game Gear, which was the first largely sold color game system, but that never caught up with the Game Boy, and Nintendo has continued to dominate the handheld gaming market to this day. Now, I could go on all day about all the huge things that happened in this era in video gaming. Console wars, as we know it, starting here with the main contenders being Nintendo and Sega. The game MIDI Maze for the Atari, later ported onto the Super Nintendo and the Game Boy as Baseball 2000, had huge networked games and LAN matches with several systems linked together that hadn't been done before. Wolfenstein 3D defined the modern first-person shooter genre and was hugely popular until Doom came out a year later and just took the market with its great multiplayer play and is widely considered to be the most influential first-person shooter ever created to this day. It's just, there's so much that happened in this little decade from around 1986 to 1995 that shaped video games into what they are now. Before this, there was a lot of groundwork, but as we know gaming, it was created here, and it just went up. As you'll see, from this point on, things just got bigger and better, and we're going to show you some of the great new things that came out after this.
This is what the most memorable generation with the N64. Everyone had one, everyone played one. This, though, this generation, it started 3D gaming. It took the world from what you saw on a screen where you could only run up, down, left, right. This took you to a whole new world. You'd run straight, you'd go in, there's trees, you're running around. Like you saw with Doom, it's in your face. It's no longer Sonic running on a track. And it all started at the N64 and the cartridge. And then you had the Game Boy, the first handheld 3D game, also colored. This, it had a removed cartridge and it was color. It was more compact. It wasn't that big brick that you remember as the Game Boy. And it also had the 3D technology where you could run through a thing. You could play Zelda, you could play Kirby, all of it. It was great. What little knows is that Nintendo decided to hook up with Sony, and they started to build a new platform. They wanted to build a new game and start a whole new generation of gaming with a new idea. Sony didn't like the console they were making, so Sony broke away and built PlayStation. With that, they made the CD. They took it from cartridges to CD, which changed the gaming forever, and it's the gaming that we know now. Holds more space, makes games better, the graphics can be so much more. And that built it for Generation 6, which is probably one of the biggest generations, except for the ones today. And in this, you have the Xbox, the DS. The DS with its dual screen, which is what DS stands for, where you could touch and interact with your game. You could, pet a dog. You could clean something. You could scrub something away. You could blow on it. You could do all sorts of stuff. And then the Gamecube and Nintendo, they had to step their game up, so they decided to make the mini disc. And the mini disc was special because it spun backwards, and it also was a smaller compact disc, made it impossible to pirate. And in this generation, there was the Xbox, which the Xbox brought one thing that changed gaming forever, and that is online gaming. Xbox brought out Halo and Halo 2, and they put it online, where you could play with people around the world. You could play with people anywhere, Japan, Korea, Europe, didn't even matter. And this is what made gaming now, the modern gaming.
As you were saying, in the 5th and 6th generation, they developed from the Xbox all the way to Live. That criteria came in where you play worldwide, as he was saying. But the new gaming, the 7th generation, when it came out, all the DSs, the PlayStations, PlayStation 3 came out. It became the biggest game in that area. When it came out, it started doing like Blu-ray. It can have Blu-ray memory, just like that. It has Live. It also developed Live because the Xbox is competition with the Xbox itself. So, and then the Xbox 360 came, and they're all competitors. The Xbox 360, the PlayStation 3, the Wii. The Wii is the only one that came out in the 7th generation that had a sensor like motion detecting gaming. Well, it became with a remote. It came with a remote. You're all familiar playing bowling or something like that. With accidentally throw the remote to the TV. I mean, it had very big issues with it. It was pretty. It was a good idea, but in the long run, it wasn't. Well, as that progressed, it became out the Xbox, and then it became into the modern games, the Nintendo DSi, which that's the first game that came out touchscreen. You got the DS, which was a pen thing, which he was saying in the 6th generation, it was just you can erase, you draw, do whatever. But the DSi came out and pretty much opened up the touchscreen world in the gaming industry. The PlayStation 3 included new disc format, like I said, the Blu-ray, HD DVD for the Xbox 360. You can put DVDs in the Xbox 360, play them to your TV, hook it to your TV and play movies. You can hook up CDs, play music, high def, the whole 9 yards. The Xbox Motion Game Connect came out because the Wii, as we all know, it had a problem with the throwing of the thing and had little issues with holding the remote. So they figured, let's say Xbox came out and said, hey, you know what, we're going to make a Connect. Let's make a Connect. There's no controllers. There's nothing. You just put a thing up on your thing, a sensor. You sit there, you wave your hands back and forth. You play some exercise. I mean, you play some bowling, you stuff like that. But there's nothing flying towards your TV, so it can't hurt. So you got that $300, $500, $600, $800 TV sitting in front of you, flat screen, brand new, nice showcase. You're not throwing nothing to it. Unless you trip, fall, and face first, and you're pretty much screwed there. The Wii was released in 2006, introducing motion, like I was saying, and before the Xbox Connect. So the Xbox Connect came after the Wii, and that's pretty much what I said. Future, after all the newest technology created in the 7th generation, where gaming goes proceeding in the 8th phase. Generation 8. Alright, Generation 8 is today's generation. Today's generation is insane. You have the Wii U, which is a gamepad. You can play I mean, it's an upgrade from the Wii because the Wii thought the Kinect took them over. So they, you know what? We're in a competition. We're gonna take that out too. Heck with the Kinect. We're gonna upgrade and have air stuff selling more. So they brought out the Wii U. Well, you're on a handheld. It's like handheld gameplay. You can play on the handheld with you turn the TV off. Save electricity, right? So okay. So they brought that out. The Xbox One. The second console to make its debut was the Xbox One. The inventors included higher graphic cards and games to accommodate its newest improvements. Xbox One released November 22nd, just in time for Black Friday. That's a pretty good idea, I think. I mean, November, you release it, then you gotta sell like 1 million copies on Black Friday because you can fluctuate the price of it, and people just go out and just buy it because it's the newest thing out. It's like new. It's like clothing. Like I said, 1 million Xbox were sold in the first 24 hours. 24 hours. Can you imagine 72 hours? 48, 72? That's crazy. If I was a maker of Xbox One, I'd probably be rich. I wouldn't be here. I'd be in California somewhere. I don't know. But then you got the PS4. The PS4 is the upgrade to the PS3. So PS3 is down. They're in 7th generation still. PS3 was. So the Xbox upgraded to Xbox One. The Wii became Wii U, and then PlayStation was like, no, we can't have that. No way. We got to upgrade. We got to get a PS4. We got to bring it out. We got to bring it out after the Xbox so we can sell our stuff. So then the console taking online gaming to Xbox standards after the PS3. So the PS4 upgraded past the Xbox One. So now they're all in competition. So the next generation after this, I can't even explain. I don't even know what's going to happen. It's going to go out the wall. The cool feature about this one is inside the remote are little robots you can play within a playroom. See, these people here, let's say this. I'm standing here, I'm looking at the TV. Let's say this big TV, I'm playing with the remote. These little robots, my pictures, I'm like inside the TV playing with little robots. So I'm sitting there playing with them. I'm sitting there playing with them. They're like inside the TV and I'm playing with them. It's cool, you know? Like I started getting freaked out. I started trying to turn the TV off, I had to run or something, you know? Man, that's some weird stuff going on here. And the evolution of games. Here's a little small video from the first generation all the way up.
now very exciting times for the Game Boy, or the video gaming industry, because we don't know where it's going from here. I mean, we have games that look very close to lifelike already. It's hard to tell where we can move on from here, but we know it's going to be great. You look at the new things that are coming out. You know, Nintendo makes the Wii with its motion controls, and then Xbox goes and takes their version of the Kinect, and Sony makes their Move. Every time, you know, we get a new big breakthrough, we get all these different versions with their own pros and cons, and we'll just see, you know, this sort of cultural cross-pollination, which is a very clever-sounding set of words. I'm glad I got to use that. Between all the different companies, and we just get this pool of all their ideas, and we don't know what they're going to come up with, but whatever it is, it probably sounds like science fiction now, but give it 5 years, we'll see what happens. It could be anything. Soon, we might have games that you just play by thinking at it. You might not even need a controller anymore. I mean, what we've got already is amazing, and we don't even know what the limit is. We could go anywhere from here. Thank you.